Hello, sound designers. Today I'm going to walk through my submission to Kiloheart's sound design contest. So what this is all about is today is March 3rd, which the date would be 303. And since there's a famous synthesizer called the TB-303 made by Roland, they're doing this little sound design contest where you try and make a patch inspired by what's commonly known as like an acid patch, I believe. It's a little before my time, but I think in like the 90s, there was like a style of like techno that used this patch a lot. And on the contest page, which I'll link in the description, they have a tutorial on how to make this basic patch. And the contest is get inspired by this patch, like borrow some of the ideas, but then like make your own twists and make your own unique awesome patch. So I highly encourage you to take part in this contest. The prizes, if I'm being honest, are not really worth much. It's just a couple of free content banks, like you pretty much get free presets. But you do get your like sound design skills recognized by Kilohearts, which is pretty cool for any aspiring sound designer or musician. So yeah, I am going to walk through my submission to this contest, and I'll give a link to the patch in the description so you can download it and get inspired by it. Use it in your own music, or just use it to get ideas for the contest. And how this contest will be evaluated is they have this MIDI sequence, and I think they'll just run this through your patch and play around with the macros you have to see who has the coolest patch, I guess. So let's hear what mine sounds like. Yes, I'm pretty happy with this patch. And I guess I can walk through like what it's all about. So let me disable all these effects. Let me disable all these filters and distortions. And I'll talk about like the core idea of this patch. So I have a previous tutorial called the multi-band Reese. I think the actual title of the video has something to do with So Says the Sea, which was my debut release on any record label. So that on that track, I had this really cool sound, or I think is a pretty cool sound design trick, where we split a sawtooth into low frequencies, mid frequencies, and high frequencies using Phase Plant's wavetable, and then we can process them all differently and get different amounts of stereo spread across the frequency range. So that was kind of the idea. Is I wanted to take that cool like multi-band sawtooth and bring it into the 303 acid patch, because the 303 acid patch also uses a sawtooth. So if all is going to plan, if I play this patch now, it should be a sawtooth. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, you can check out my previous tutorial to get on like So Says the Sea Respace if you want to see how you do this in more detail. But the basic idea is we would load up in this wavetable a saw, and then you will use this filter tool right over here to kind of carve out the harmonics. And there's like specific harmonics I like to carve out, But basically, as long as they're all complementary, like you low pass the third harmonic in one, high pass the third harmonic in another, and they'll all sum into a sawtooth, as you can see. Wait, but now I need to go back to my wavetable. There you go. Yeah, check out my oscilloscope up here. There you go. Okay, you get the idea. So we have a sawtooth, but in a weird, funky way. So then we'll turn the filter on, which is the other part of the acid patch. You also have some glide down here. And I'm doing something kind of interesting where actually, I'm not doing it right now. This is something I wanted to do. So let's build this into the patch right now. So I wanted to turn this glide off of the patch sometimes randomly because I thought the glide all the time was a little too much. So if we turn this random down to 0 hertz, it's not like modulating over time, but each note will give a random value. So if we remap this with a 50% binary chance, I guess remap, we can now like choke this glide 50% of the time. I have to hook this up. That would help. I don't know. It's subtle. Can you hear the difference? But yeah, I just wanted to get rid of that glide some of the times. Okay, so now we have the basic acid patch. We got the sawtooth, sort of. We have the filter. We got resonance. We've got an envelope. I also have a macro to control the decay on the envelope. Okay, so that's like the basic patch. This was the starting point. Now let's add some unison in to all of our wavetables. And I have this detune similar to my Reese video, multiband Reese. I have the note modulator affecting the detune. So as we like play higher notes, we have more detune. As we play lower notes, we have less detune. That really reminds me of 9 Inch Nails, so that's one of my favorite bands. Really cool sound already. I guess from here, I think I turned on this high pass filter with resonance on the master effects, and that's tied to the there's a note modulator modulating the cutoff. The simpler way to say that is that this cutoff is tuned to our fundamental frequency. So we're sort of boosting the fundamental frequency here. Adds a lot of low end. That's maybe not the order I did things. I think I was saturating a lot over here first. So this is the really cool part about the multi-band split. The way you do this is that distortion's nonlinear, right? So depending on which frequencies go into the distortion together, you get different results. So when you split the sawtooth up this way, distorting each frequency band gives you different results. Okay, this is kind of the direction I started to want to go. And then I added another layer of distortion after the enveloped filter. And especially this top end, this sine wave distortion, or it's kind of like a foldback. I don't know exactly what it is, but it's like kind of reshapes the wave with a sine. Okay, that's crispy. That is really cool. And here's also where I introduced a lot of the macros because this affects the timbre so much. Here we're more back to kind of like just subtle distortion, but you can also drive this crispy end or this like lower. I think this is actually mids. Probably should rename this. Driving the mid frequencies. Can get all sorts of cool textures. Let's introduce the effects next, because I think that was kind of the next thing I added. So you can cut them off with this wet macro. And we should be more or less where we were a second ago. But then when we turn this up, so this part, once again, we're taking advantage of this multiband split where the low frequencies get sent to lane 1, and both of these lane 1 and lane 2 meet at lane 3. So it's, if you're not super in-depth in phase plant, that might sound complicated, but pretty much lane 1 is only affecting the low frequencies, lane 2 affects the mids and the highs, and then they meet together in lane 3 where they all get affected together. So we have like some delay, convolution, reverb, not too interesting, or at least not much to talk about other than there's reverb and delay. There is an audio follower, which I use. This follows the envelope of our signal, and so we can like cut the reverb levels as like our signals coming in, clean things up a little. But then so yeah, that's not too interesting, but this FX throw we can talk about that a little. So what we're doing here, let me turn this all the way wet. It'll make more sense. So yeah, so in here, each of these channels in here, which this is based off like a default snap heap effect, and then I just changed it a little bit. So like you've got like these different channels with like different reverbs, like a distorted reverb, and then there's even like a pretty crazy one which has delay with a pitch shifter, and then like as you turn up these macros, it sends the signal into them. But then, of course, like when you turn the gain back down, like these long reverbs or these delays can keep affecting. You're just not like, you're no longer sending the signal into these. So that's kind of how you get those effect throw type of things within a patch without having to use like sends within Ableton. So then the other interesting thing about this is like, you just want this patch to work. This is going to some, kilohertz employee that's just going to load this patch up, and you just want it to already sound cool and have reverb throws in. So I have this random modulator, which goes to these different remaps, and essentially like whatever random value we choose for each note, that will remap to a different effect. 50% of the time. So 50% of the time we have no effects, and then the other 50% of the time we will send our signal to one of these effects chains. So that sounds cool, but of course we want the mix turned down. Alrighty. What's next? So I think I haven't mentioned this, so I might as well quickly say that I think I just have some ability to modulate the filter movement. So I have some LFOs going to the filter cutoff frequency. And so yeah, since like this filter is repeated on like lows, mids, and highs, you can sort of have like different resonances on these different copies of the signal. And especially since you have distortion on all of these, you end up having like overlapping harmonics. So it's just kind of a cool way to get some more variation between these channels. What am I talking? It's I don't know what I'm saying. It's a little hard to describe, but it sounds cool. Let me just play it. some cool variation. I think I've covered all these macros up here. I think I've re-enabled every effect and mentioned it. So let's go me. Then the last thing that we got going on is this mod wheel. So this is meant to be kind of the most intense one. Like all these macros, you just kind of want to set up to taste. And it kind of like, I mean, you can play with them, but for the most part, they're meant to kind of like dial in. But then this mod wheel is what you'd use to like open up, like near the drop. Like let me re-enable the drums. Yeah, so let's talk about what this mod wheel does. And I think that'll wrap up the video after that. So the main thing is there is some variation in this wavetable. I just added this dispersion in. So if you go to effects, disperse, I don't want to add any more dispersion, but this is how you would set it up, and you just like vary the amounts on each end of the frames. Yeah, so basically we're dispersing the wavetable as we increase this mod wheel. And since we're going into these distortions, that's why it's so crazy, because like, you know, the dispersion changes the shape of the waveform, and distortion is sensitive to the waveform shape, and so you can really change the timbre. In fact, if I solo this, turn the wet down, we can hear it even better, because the wet is the other part of the mod wheel. That's literally just dispersion. That's definitely really intense for just, you know, something that's just changing the phase of frequencies. Pretty powerful. And the last thing this does is we affect some LFOs in a way that I don't really remember. I guess we increase the frequency of... Oh, yeah. Okay, so as we turn this up, we also... I found that it was a little too static if we just let these wavetables like sit on like up here in the other end. It gets kind of too nasally when we just like sit on one of these dispersed saw wave frames. So we have some LFOs that just give it some movement. And then I know we turned some reverb up. I can't remember exactly where that happens. Oh, there it is. So yeah, we just turned the reverb up, turn the mix up as we increase this mod wheel. Sick. So that's the whole patch. I'll give a link in the description. You can download it, use it in your tunes, get ideas to submit to the contest. And if this was helpful for you, please remember to like and subscribe. It really helps the channel out. I'm trying to make sweet content for you guys, posting weekly tutorials. So that's all I'll say about that, and see you next time.